Commander Elias Vance had seen war, storms, and countless emergencies in his years with the Earth Space Corps, but nothing could have prepared him for the beauty of HFY Story Prime. The world hung in the void like a sparkling jewel, its skies painted in shades of violet and turquoise. Towering crystal spires jutted from the surface, catching the twin suns' light and scattering it in dazzling rainbows across the atmosphere. Elias had traveled too many worlds in his career, but HFY Story Prime had a majesty that seemed almost unreal. As if the planet itself were alive with quiet energy, he stood on the landing platform, gazing at the grand palace built from polished white stone and crystalline towers. The summit was meant to celebrate a new alliance between humans and the Celestarians, a peaceful race known for their intelligence and unique energy manipulation abilities. Elias had been chosen as humanity's envoy, a role that both honored and frightened him. Despite his military background, this mission was delicate. A single mistake could destroy the fragile trust between species. Princess Lyra, heir to the Celestarian throne, was scheduled to arrive at the palace for a ceremonial welcome. Stories of her kindness and wisdom had already reached Earth, and Elias was eager to meet her. He adjusted his uniform, checked the communicator at his wrist, and took a deep breath. The air smelled faintly of ozone and crystal pollen, a strange but calming scent that seemed to vibrate in harmony with the planet itself. The palace doors opened, revealing Celestarian attendants who moved with elegant precision. Their flowing robes shimmered like liquid light, and their eyes, larger than a human's, glimmered with intelligence and curiosity. Elias smiled politely, aware of the cameras and observers recording every moment. Diplomacy required patience, and patience was not always his strongest suit. Yet, today, he would need all of it. Minutes later, the sound of hovering carriages announced Princess Lyra's arrival. Elias felt a flutter of nervous anticipation. She stepped out, graceful and serene, her crystal-colored robes catching the light in waves of sapphire and emerald. Her presence was commanding yet gentle, a balance Elias had not expected. She glanced at him with eyes full of curiosity, and he felt a strange warmth, as if the planet itself approved of this meeting. "Commander Vance," she said, her voice clear and melodic. "Welcome to HFY Story Prime. We are honored by humanity's presence. The honor is mine, Princess." Elias replied. He offered a slight bow, careful to respect their customs. Lyra nodded in acknowledgement, and the attendants guided them toward the palace interior. The summit hall was a marvel of architecture. The walls glowed softly with embedded crystals, and the floor seemed to ripple like water, reflecting the light in gentle patterns. Aliens from various sectors of the Celestarian government were already gathered, discussing treaties and trade agreements in a language of soft hums and tones. Elias felt a mix of awe and apprehension. He had trained for negotiations, but this was far beyond anything he had imagined. He was not just representing Earth. He was standing for all humanity. The opening speeches began, emphasizing unity and the promise of cooperation between species. Elias listened attentively, nodding at appropriate times, while scanning the room for potential threats. Despite the grandeur, he remained aware of the fact that diplomacy often attracted those who thrived in chaos. And chaos, he knew, could strike at any moment. It struck faster than anyone could anticipate. A sudden, high-pitched whine echoed through the hall, followed by the terrifying sound of machinery grinding and cracking. Red emergency lights flashed, bathing the crystalline walls in ominous color. The energy core beneath the palace, a massive lattice of pulsing light that powered the entire structure, had been sabotaged. Alarms blared, and the hum of energy shifted into a violent vibration that shook the floor beneath their feet. Panic erupted. Delegates and attendants screamed in confusion, some trying to flee while others froze in shock. Elias didn't think, he acted. His eyes locked on Princess Lyra, who had stepped toward the center of the room. Frozen in disbelief, without a second thought, he lunged forward, wrapping his body around her as the energy core exploded in a blinding surge of light and heat. The blast was unlike anything Elias had ever experienced. The light burned through his vision, and a force slammed into him with crushing weight. The sound was deafening, like thousands of crystal bells shattering at once. For a moment, Time seemed to slow, and all that existed was the desperate need to protect the princess. He felt the heat, the pressure, and the vibration of the palace beneath him. Yet his mind was singularly focused on keeping her safe. "Hold on," he shouted, even though he doubted she could hear him over the chaos. The walls cracked, and shards of crystal flew through the air like deadly rain. Elias used his training to shield her, turning his body into a human barrier against the worst of the explosion. He felt himself lifted by the force, thrown across the hall, but he gritted his teeth and held on. When the light finally dimmed, the world seemed to tilt. Dust and crystal fragments filled the air, making it hard to breathe. The screams of the attendants were muffled, replaced by a low, rumbling vibration from the unstable palace. Elias's ears rang, his vision blurred, and his body ached from the impact. But he did not release the princess. She was still in his arms, unconscious but alive. That was all that mattered. The floor beneath them groaned and cracked further, and Elias realized the structure was collapsing. He tried to move, to drag her to safety, but his strength was waning. His muscles burned, and every joint protested, yet he forced himself forward, step by agonizing step. The palace seemed to fight him, sending shards and fragments that threatened to end both their lives. A sudden pulse of energy hit him squarely in the chest, knocking the air from his lungs. He coughed and struggled to breathe, but he kept moving, determined to keep the princess safe. He could feel the world fading around him, the sound of the collapse, the searing heat, and the blinding light, but he refused to let go. Then came the final moment. A massive shard of crystal shot toward them, catching him in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body, and darkness crept at the edges of his vision. He tightened his grip on Princess Lyra, whispering words he wasn't sure she could hear. "Stay with me. Stay alive." And then the world went white. When Elias finally opened his eyes, he was no longer in the burning palace. The pain was gone, replaced by a strange warmth that seemed to seep through every part of him. He tried to move, but his limbs felt heavy, and his vision was blurred. As his eyes adjusted, he realized he was no longer alone. Figures surrounded him, some floating, some hovering, others bending over strange glowing instruments. And in the center, unmistakably, was Princess Lyra, her eyes wide as she looked at him. Elias wanted to speak, to ask where he was and how he had survived, but his voice caught in his throat. Instead, he could only stare, realizing that the events of the palace had not ended, they had just begun. Elias slowly opened his eyes, blinking against the soft, pulsing light of the room. The pain in his body was gone, replaced by a strange warmth that seemed to flow through every limb. He tried to move, but his muscles felt unusually heavy, as if the world itself pressed down on him. Panic rose in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. He had survived the blast at Celestar Prime, something that, he now realized, was far more than a simple accident of luck. Around him, figures moved with quiet precision. The Celestarians had changed from the elegant, humanoid appearance he had first seen in the palace. Now, they shimmered faintly, their translucent forms bending light in ways that made them appear almost ghost-like. Some floated above the ground, while others hovered over glowing consoles and strange medical devices. The air smelled faintly of ozone and crystal energy, the same scent that had greeted him when he first arrived on the planet. It was calming, yet alien, reminding him that he was far from Earth and far from human understanding. At the center of the room, Princess Lyra knelt beside him. Her face showed concern, her sapphire eyes wide and attentive. Elias wanted to speak, to ask 1,000 questions at once, but his voice caught in his throat. Instead, he tried a small movement, shifting slightly to see her face better. She smiled faintly, placing a delicate hand on his arm. "You're awake," she said softly, her voice carrying both relief and something more, a quiet admiration. "I was afraid we had lost you." Elias swallowed, still struggling to find his voice. What happened? Where am I?" "You survived," Lyra said, almost marveling. "The explosion. No human should survive an energy blast like that. Yet here you are." She looked around the room at the floating figures. "Our healers have been working non-stop. You are remarkable." The words both startled and confused him. He had taken a blast meant to destroy a palace, shielded her with everything he had. And yet he survived. He knew humans were resilient, but this was extraordinary. And he could sense that the Celestarians were not only impressed, but perhaps even unsettled. He remembered the science briefings they had given him before the summit. Celestarians studied energy, biology, and healing in ways humans could barely imagine. If they said he shouldn't have survived, then he truly was an anomaly. The figures surrounding him moved closer, and Elias could now see that each of them held a device that emitted soft light. Some scanned his body, while others adjusted glowing panels that hummed in harmony with the room. A gentle voice spoke in melodic tones, which Lyra translated. They say your energy signatures are unusual. You healed faster than predicted. It is as if your body adapted instantly to trauma. The human species. You are unpredictable. Elias tried to speak again, finally managing a hoarse whisper. Unpredictable? You mean I shouldn't be alive? Princess Lyra nodded slowly. By all known Celestarian medicine, you should have died instantly. But something your courage, your will, your body defied it. You are extraordinary. Elias Vance, a strange feeling settled in his chest. He had always prided himself on resilience, on never giving up. But now, being called extraordinary by an alien race whose technology and medicine far exceeded humanity's, made him feel both proud and fearful. Proud because he had saved her. Fearful because he realized that his survival could have consequences he did not yet understand. Before he could gather his thoughts, one of the floating figures, a scholar with a body that shimmered like liquid crystal, spoke again. Its voice, translated by Lyra, was careful, almost hesitant. Commander Vance, your actions have caused a disruption in the balance of politics here. Your survival, it changes everything. Some factions will see humanity as essential to the future. Others may see you as a threat. Elias frowned. A threat? To who? The same ones who tried to destroy the summit, Lyra said, her voice tight with concern. There are those among the Celestarian leadership who did not want humans involved. They see your survival as a problem, and now they will act quickly. He felt a chill, though the room itself was warm and calm. He had survived the blast, shielded a princess, and now found himself in a room full of Celestarians who seemed both curious and cautious. For the first time, he understood that survival was only the beginning. There was a larger game at play, one he might not be fully prepared for. The scholar leaned closer, its form bending the light in unusual ways. Commander, we must ask you to rest. Your body is still recovering, but we also need your insight. The sabotage, it was complex. You may have seen things we do not understand. Tell us, what did you notice? Elias thought back to the explosion, the way the energy surged, the way the core cracked, the tiny hum beneath the roar of the blast. It wasn't just a failure, he said slowly. Someone said it. The energy pattern. It was deliberate, precise. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. You could see that? Even in the chaos? I've trained to notice patterns in emergencies, Elias admitted. Sometimes your instincts tell you what machines or people are doing, even when there's no time to think, the scholar hummed, a sound that conveyed both surprise and intrigue. Human instincts. Fascinating. Perhaps this is why you survived. Perhaps your mind interacts with energy in ways we cannot predict. Elias rubbed his temples. He was not used to being a subject of scientific fascination, especially not by an alien race. But he realized that his instincts as human ingenuity were being seen as more than mere survival skills. To them, he was valuable. Princess Lyra reached out, her hand brushing his. Elias, you need to know something, she said quietly. The palace explosion. It was only the beginning. The factions opposing the human alliance will not stop. They will act again. And when they do, they may not hold back. Elias met her gaze. Despite the lingering fear in her eyes, he saw determination. She was not just a princess. She was a leader, someone willing to face danger to protect her people. And now, she had to trust him not just to survive, but to help safeguard her world. The scholar's voice cut through the moment, firm and precise. Commander, we must ask for your cooperation. Your understanding of human thought, strategy, and adaptability. It may be essential to preventing further disasters. Will you assist us? Elias hesitated, thinking of Earth, of his mission, of the human species as a whole. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders, but he also knew that he had already risked his life once. If staying alive meant helping prevent another catastrophe, he would do it. I'll help, he said finally, his voice steady. Tell me what I need to know. The scholar nodded, and the room's lights shifted, focusing on a holographic map that rose above the floor. Energy nodes, transport routes, and crystalline structures glowed in vibrant colors, showing Elias the architecture of the palace and the surrounding city. He noticed subtle distortions in the map, tiny anomalies that suggested hidden devices, areas of sabotage, and structural weaknesses. These are the points we have identified, Lyra explained. But your perspective. Humans often see what we cannot. Your instincts may notice the details that evade our sensors. Elias leaned closer, examining the hologram. Already, his mind was racing, piecing together what had happened and what might happen next. He realized that surviving the blast was only the first step. Now, he needed to understand the motives behind it, the people who would risk the princess's life, and how humanity could play a role in preventing future disaster. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes' time felt strange in the soft, pulsing glow of the healing chamber. Elias's senses were sharp. Every hum, every flicker of light seemed meaningful. He began to sketch scenarios in his mind. Who might have orchestrated the attack? How they could strike again? And what role he and Princess Lyra could play in stopping them? By the time the chamber doors opened, Elias felt stronger, clearer, and ready. The Celestarians guided him to a central chamber where Princess Lyra stood waiting, a combination of relief and resolve in her eyes. She extended her hand. Are you ready, Elias? She asked. He nodded. Ready. As he followed her through the crystalline corridors, Elias realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not in alien technology, superior weapons, or perfect planning. It was in adaptability, courage, and the refusal to give up, even when everything seemed lost. And on this world of crystal and light, those qualities had just begun to show their power outside. The twin suns of Celestar Prime shone bright, scattering light across the alien city. The palace might have been damaged, factions might be plotting, and danger might still be lurking, but Elias Vance was alive, and humanity had already made its mark. Somewhere deep within him, he felt a spark of certainty that, no matter what came next, he would stand, not just for Princess Lyra, not just for Celestar Prime, but for the human race itself, and the Watchers, those curious, cautious, and brilliant Celestarians would see exactly why humans were a force unlike any other. Elias walked beside Princess Lyra through the crystalline halls of the palace. The light from the shattered windows created dazzling reflections across the floor, making it look like they were walking through a river of stars. Despite the beauty, the damage was clear. Cracks ran along the walls, and the floor hummed faintly from the stress of the recent explosion. Elias could feel it under his feet, a low vibration that made his muscles tense. Princess Lyra's voice broke the silence. We need to understand who did this, Elias. The blast wasn't random. It was precise, deliberate. Someone wanted to send a message. Or worse, to destroy the human Celestarian alliance. Elias nodded, scanning the corridors. I noticed the energy pattern. It wasn't just chaotic. It followed a structure. Whoever did this knows the palace better than most of your people, and they understand the energy core deeply. That's not simple sabotage, it's professional. Lyra's eyes widened. Professional, you mean? Someone from inside? Either that, or someone who has studied the palace for a long time. Whoever it is, they planned this, and if we don't find them, they could strike again. The two of them entered a chamber that had been converted into a temporary investigation hub. Floating screens displayed streams of data, maps, and holographic reconstructions of the explosion. Scholars hovered around, murmuring to each other in soft melodic tones, occasionally glancing at Elias with curiosity. They had already begun piecing together the moments leading up to the blast. But Elias's human perspective was something new to them, an angle that they had not considered. Elias leaned over a holographic projection of the palace. He traced the energy pulses leading up to the explosion with his fingers. "Look here," he said. "This spike just before the blast. It wasn't natural. Someone triggered the core manually, using a pattern that mirrors your own energy sequencing. But the timing, it's human in logic. Precise, but adaptive. They expected some variables to change, and they accounted for them," a scholar floated closer. "Its form shimmering like liquid crystal." "You mean the human brain can detect patterns our calculations do not?" Elias shrugged. "Sometimes instinct works better than computation. You see patterns, but humans sometimes see intentions behind patterns. It's subtle, but it's there." Lyra nodded slowly, impressed. "Then your instincts could help us prevent the next attack. But where do we start?" Elias studied the projection. "We start with access points. Someone had to get close to the energy core, avoid security, and leave no trace. I checked the entry logs, surveillance records, and any unusual access codes. Whoever did this left small gaps for themselves. Those gaps are our first clue." Hours passed as they pored over the data. Elias pointed out anomalies that the scholars had overlooked: a maintenance drone that had deviated slightly from its normal path, an energy pulse that didn't match any official schedule, and a security signature that seemed almost human. Lyra's eyes followed his finger as he explained each finding. "This is incredible," she said. "You see what we cannot, even with all our technology." Elias smiled faintly. "Humans are good at adapting, improvising, and noticing what's out of place. It's not technology, it's intuition. That's why I survived." Lyra's expression grew serious. "Then we need your intuition now. Whoever did this is still out there, planning their next move." They moved to a balcony overlooking the city, the shattered spires glinting in the light of Celestar Prime's twin suns. Elias could see that the damage from the explosion extended beyond the palace. Some streets were blocked, and emergency repair drones floated along the fractures in the crystal towers. He realized that this attack was not just a strike on the royal family. It was a message to the entire planet. "Elias," Lyra said, her voice quiet but firm. "If we find this saboteur, we need to act quickly. They will strike again, and the next time, the consequences could be catastrophic." Elias nodded. "I agree, but we need to be careful. Whoever this is, they understand both Celestarian and human tactics. They might anticipate our moves if we act openly." Lyra's hand brushed against his as they looked over the city. "Then we act quietly. We gather information, observe patterns, and wait for the right moment. And we trust your instincts." Elias took a deep breath. "Then let's begin. I'll need access to every record, every energy log, and every sensor in the city. If someone's planning another strike, we'll catch them before they act over the next few hours." Elias moved like a whirlwind through the investigation. He examined security logs, comparing timestamps and energy fluctuations, while Lyra coordinated the scholars to provide additional data. Together, they noticed a subtle thread connecting the palace's energy anomalies to other sectors of the city. A pattern emerged: small adjustments that seemed random at first but, when pieced together, revealed a carefully orchestrated plan. Elias's mind worked in rapid sequences, connecting dots that seemed unrelated. "Here," he said, pointing to a series of energy signatures. "These minor pulses are too precise to be accidents. Someone is testing weaknesses, small probes before a larger strike. And they're moving through the city unnoticed." Lyra studied the projections. "Then this is not just sabotage. It's reconnaissance. They are preparing for something bigger." "Yes," Elias said. "And if we follow these traces, we might find where they are hiding or who is orchestrating this." The scholars exchanged looks of awe. One of them floated closer and said, "Commander, your reasoning is unlike anything we have observed. Perhaps humanity's unpredictability is exactly what we need." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Maybe, but unpredictability without strategy is chaos. We need both. I'll show you how to combine instinct and planning." Ours turned into a full day. By evening, Elias and Lyra had pieced together the first real clues. The saboteur had used a disguised maintenance drone to bypass security, leaving only a subtle energy ripple that most sensors would dismiss. But Elias had noticed it. Following the ripple, they traced it to a hidden sector beneath one of the city's crystal towers, a place no ordinary human or Celestarian would ever think to investigate. "This is it," Elias said, pointing at the map. "This is where the saboteur is hiding. If we want answers, we go here first." Lyra nodded. "Then we prepare. But we must be careful. Whoever is behind this knows the palace inside out. They will have defenses." Elias's expression hardened. "I'm ready. Let's make sure the next strike never happens. Humanity doesn't just survive. We fight smart, and that's what we're going to do." As they moved toward the hidden sector, Elias couldn't help but feel a surge of determination. The palace explosion had been a test, a challenge thrown at him and the human species. And now, with Lyra by his side and the Celestarians watching, he would prove that humanity's courage, ingenuity, and adaptability were not to be underestimated. Somewhere deep within the city, the saboteur was unaware that their every move was being tracked. Every subtle energy pulse, every attempt to hide, had been noticed, and the humans and the princess were closing in. Elias felt a familiar thrill, the kind that always came before a difficult mission. The risk was high, the stakes enormous. But this was where humans shine, in the face of impossible odds, finding a way forward. And on Star Prime, amid crystal towers and twin suns, Elias Vance was ready to prove exactly why humanity was a force that could not be ignored. The investigation had only just begun, but already the threads of the mystery were starting to unravel. The saboteur had underestimated the combination of human instinct and Celestarian technology. And when Elias finally confronted the hidden threat, he knew one thing for certain: survival was not enough. To protect Princess Lyra, the palace, and the fragile alliance, he would have to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast an enemy who had planned everything, except for a human's unpredictability. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the crystal city, and Elias Vance prepared for the night ahead. Danger was coming. The saboteur was clever, and the next move could decide the fate of Star Prime. But one thing was certain: humans had arrived, and they would not back down. Elias and Princess Lyra moved silently through the lower levels of Star Prime's central city, their footsteps echoing faintly in the vast, crystalline corridors. The hidden sector they had discovered was far older than the rest of the palace, a network of tunnels and chambers carved directly from the planet's crystal bedrock. Dim, glowing lines traced the walls, guiding them deeper into the labyrinth. Every pulse of light felt alive, almost as if the planet itself was watching. "This place is older than the palace," Lyra whispered, her voice reverent. "It was part of the original world core design. Few have seen these tunnels in centuries." Elias's gaze swept the corridor. He could feel the energy in the walls, subtle fluctuations that humans would usually ignore. But his instincts, sharpened by years of high-stakes missions, picked up the tiniest irregularities, a faint hum that did not match the rest of the core. A vibration in the floor slightly out of sync with the others. "Someone's been here recently," he said quietly. "Look at these lines." He pointed to faint scratches along the crystal surfaces, markings too deliberate to be natural. "They're like fingerprints, subtle, but they tell a story." Lyra knelt to examine the markings. "You mean the saboteur left a trail?" Elias nodded. "Not on purpose. Just the way they moved, how they handled the environment. They can't hide everything." Together, they followed the trail, deeper into the hidden sector. The chambers grew wider, the crystal walls pulsating with energy from the world core itself. The core was a lattice of pure light, a living network that supplied energy to the entire planet. Its hum resonated through the tunnels, vibrating against their bones and filling the air with a faint, warm glow. "This is the world core," Lyra said softly. "It sustains Star Prime. If the saboteur reaches it, the consequences could be catastrophic." Elias felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Protecting the core was no longer just about preventing a political disaster. It was about saving the planet itself. "We need to find them before they make a move," he said. "And we need to understand their plan." Every step they take will leave a clue if we pay attention. They moved cautiously, following the faint anomalies Elias had noticed earlier. The core's energy pulses flickered in patterns that were just slightly off, revealing subtle distortions where the saboteur had tampered with the flow. Most Celestarians would not have noticed these variations, but Elias's human instincts honed him to see the invisible. "Look," he said, pointing at a section of the core lattice. "See that fluctuation? Someone tried to draw power from this node. They didn't take much, but they tested the system. Whoever it is, they're probing for weaknesses." Lyra's eyes widened. "They are preparing for a larger strike. But why? What do they hope to achieve?" Elias considered. Control of the core could give them power over the entire planet. They want leverage, maybe political, maybe personal. But one thing is clear. They underestimated humans. As they continued, they reached a vast chamber filled with floating platforms and energy conduits. The patterns of light in the room shifted like liquid, responding to the core's pulse. Elias's eyes scanned everything. The saboteur is clever, but predictable in one way: they rely on technology and patterns. Humans, we don't always follow patterns. That's our edge. Lyra glanced at him. "You mean improvisation?" Elias smiled faintly. "Exactly. We adapt. We improvise. That's why I survived the blast, and why we can stop them now." They moved across the platforms carefully, the hum of the core resonating beneath them. Every step had to be precise. One misstep could trigger a defensive response from the core itself. But Elias noticed something unusual: a subtle shimmer in the air, almost like a distortion. "Here," he whispered. "They're nearby. Someone is manipulating the energy directly." Lyra nodded. "Then we must be careful. We cannot underestimate them." The shimmering distortion resolved into a figure: the saboteur, a Celestarian scientist, once respected, now rogue and desperate. Their eyes widened in surprise at seeing Elias and Lyra. "You!" the saboteur exclaimed, their voice sharp with disbelief. How did you survive the palace?" Elias's expression was calm but determined. "Human instinct. We adapt, we survive. And now, we stop you." The saboteur lunged toward a control panel, attempting to activate a hidden device that would disrupt the core. Light flared, and energy surged dangerously through the room. Elias acted instinctively, moving faster than the saboteur expected. He used a combination of quick thinking and precise movements to redirect the energy pulses, preventing the device from overloading the core. Lyra assisted, channeling her own Celestarian energy to stabilize the lattice. The two of them worked in unison, human intuition blending with alien precision. The saboteur's plans began to unravel under their coordinated efforts. "You cannot stop me," the saboteur shouted, desperation in their tone. "The core will be mine. The planet will obey me." Elias shook his head. "You miscalculated. You forgot one thing about humans. We don't just follow plans. We improvise. And when we work together, we're unstoppable." With a final surge of energy, Elias and Lyra neutralized the device. The core stabilized, its hum returning to a steady rhythm. The saboteur staggered back, defeated but alive, unable to continue their plans. Elias looked at the scientist. "It's over. The core is safe. Chillastar Prime will continue, and your actions will no longer threaten it." Lyra stepped forward, her expression resolute. "And you will face justice, as dictated by the Council. But know this, we did not act alone. Humans and Celestarians together stopped you. That is the strength of our alliance." The saboteur's eyes narrowed, but they realized the truth in her words. They had underestimated the combination of human unpredictability and Celestarian intelligence. Their plan had failed, and the core remained secure. Elias and Lyra stood in the chamber, the twin suns' light filtering through the distant crystal windows. Elias felt a surge of pride, not just for surviving the palace explosion, but for using his instincts and courage to protect an entire world. Humanity's edge was clear: adaptability, intuition, and the refusal to give up, even against superior technology and complex plans. This was incredible," Lyra said softly, turning to Elias. "Your insight saved the core. Humanity is remarkable. I have never seen anything like it." Elias smiled faintly. Thank you, but it wasn't just me. It was us, your knowledge, my instincts, working together. That's why we succeeded. The core's steady hum filled the chamber, a reminder of the life and energy that flowed through the planet. The saboteur would be dealt with, the palace repaired, and the city secured. But the real victory was the recognition of what humans could offer: courage, adaptability, and an instinctive understanding of patterns that no amount of alien technology could predict. As they left the hidden sector, Elias felt a deep sense of purpose. He had risked his life to protect Princess Lyra, and in doing so, had discovered something greater. Humanity was not just a species of survival, but a species capable of making a real difference on a galactic scale. Lyra walked beside him, her hand brushing his in quiet solidarity. Elias, the Council must hear what happened here. They need to understand the value of our alliance with humans. Elias nodded. And they will. Humanity doesn't just survive disasters, we help prevent them. That's the strength we bring. Together, they returned to the palace's central chamber, ready to report their success. The city outside gleamed with light from the repaired structures, a testament to resilience and cooperation. Celestar Prime had been tested, and it had survived not just because of advanced technology, but because humans and Celestarians had worked together, blending instinct and intelligence to overcome the impossible. Elias realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, dangers, and mysteries yet to be discovered. And humanity, with its courage, ingenuity, and adaptability, had proven that it was more than ready to face whatever lay ahead. He glanced at Lyra, her eyes filled with trust and admiration. We did it, he said quietly. Yes, she replied. And the world is safer because of it. Humanity. You are a force unlike any I have ever known. Elias allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The saboteur had been stopped, the core was safe, and the alliance stronger than ever. But in the back of his mind, he knew the galaxy was full of unknown dangers. And when those dangers arose, humans would be there ready, adaptable, and unstoppable. The twin suns set over the crystal city, casting long, sparkling shadows across the towers. Elias Vance looked toward the horizon, a quiet determination in his heart. Humanity had survived. Humanity had prevailed. And humanity's story was only beginning. The Celestarian Council convened in the great hall of the palace, its walls shimmering with a soft, golden light. Delegates from across the planet filled the room, their robes glowing and shifting in the glow of the crystal chandeliers. Every eye was on Commander Elias Vance and Princess Lyra as they entered. Elias felt the weight of the moment pressing on him, not just for himself, but for humanity and the fragile alliance that had been tested and proven resilient. Princess Lyra walked beside him, her posture calm yet commanding. She had already briefed the council on the events of the past days, the sabotage, the hidden saboteur, and the near destruction of the world core. But she wanted them to hear Elias speak for himself, the human who had survived an impossible blast, navigated the palace's mysteries, and helped save their world. Elias's heart pounded. Speaking before an entire council of a foreign species was intimidating, but he reminded himself that courage had carried him this far. Humanity's edge was not in fearlessness, but in the ability to act decisively even when fear existed. He took a deep breath and began. Honored council members, Elias said, his voice steady and clear. I came to Celestar Prime as a representative of Earth, a guest and ally. When the palace was attacked, I did what anyone would do. I protected Princess Lyra. But what I learned over these past days is more than just about survival. I learned that when humans and Celestarians work together, we can overcome even the most dangerous threats. A ripple of acknowledgement ran through the council. Elias continued, his words gaining confidence. The sabotage was deliberate. The saboteur planned carefully, tested weaknesses, and tried to gain control of the world core. But through teamwork, observation, and quick thinking, we stopped them. Humanity's strength lies not in technology alone, but in adaptability, intuition, and courage, the same qualities that allowed me to survive the palace explosion. And it is these qualities that can strengthen the alliance between our species. One of the council members, a tall figure with translucent wings, stepped forward. "Commander Vance, you risked your life to save a Celestarian. Your actions have not only protected the World Core, but have also demonstrated the value of human insight. We are impressed." Elias nodded, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I was simply doing what anyone should do. But the success we achieved could not have happened without Princess Lyra, her people, and the willingness to work together. That is the real power of the Alliance itself." Princess Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "The Council must understand what Commander Vance represents. Humanity is not only resilient but capable of strategic thought, instinctive problem-solving, and courage in the face of danger. Their actions have saved our world. Let us honor this achievement and recognize the potential of our continued collaboration." The council murmured, and the sound resonated through the hall like soft music. The delegates began to nod, discussing quietly among themselves. Elias felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His journey from surviving a deadly blast to uncovering a hidden saboteur had led to this moment, where humans were finally seen as more than guests or outsiders. They were partners, allies, and a force to be reckoned with. Suddenly, a section of the chamber opened, and the saboteur was brought forward, restrained by glowing energy bindings. The Celestarian guards had ensured that no one could interfere. The rogue scientist's eyes darted toward Elias, filled with anger and disbelief. "You," the saboteur hissed. "You think you've won? This is far from over." Elias met their gaze calmly. "It is over. The world core is safe, and your plans have failed. Celestar Prime is not yours to control, and neither are its people." Princess Lyra addressed the council. "This individual acted against our laws, endangered our planet, and tried to destroy the very foundation of our society. They will face justice as dictated by Celestarian law. But the lesson here is clear. No one can succeed alone. We require cooperation, understanding, and trust. And through this, humans have proven they are allies we can rely upon." The council rose as one, a gesture of approval and respect. Delegates turned to Elias, their glowing eyes filled with admiration. Some spoke in melodic tones, which Lyra translated. "Humans are brave and clever. We must learn from them. We must include them in our future." Elias allowed himself a small smile. He had never sought recognition, but this moment mattered not for him, but for the human race. Humanity's courage and ingenuity had been witnessed by an advanced civilization, and it had left a mark after the council concluded. Lyra led Elias to the balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, casting long rays of gold and violet across the crystal towers. The city had been repaired quickly, the fractures in the streets smoothed by floating drones and Celestarian engineers. Life had returned to normal, and yet Elias knew the memory of the explosion, the chase, and the confrontation would never leave him. "You did well, Elias," Lyra said softly. "Not just for saving me, but for helping save my people. Your instincts, your courage. You are remarkable." Elias looked at her, the twin suns reflected in her eyes. "I only did what anyone would do, but I've learned a lot about your people, your world, and the importance of cooperation. Humans have much to offer, and I hope we can continue to prove that." Lyra nodded. "You already have. And now, the Council has recognized it as well. Your actions have strengthened the Alliance, and your name will be remembered here." On Celestar Prime, Elias felt a surge of pride, tempered with humility. Recognition was not why he had acted, but knowing that humanity's courage had made a difference in a galaxy far from Earth filled him with hope. He realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and challenges, and humans had already proven that they could rise to meet the impossible. The night fell, and the city sparkled like a sea of stars. Elias and Lyra stood side by side, silent for a moment, watching the lights reflect across the crystal towers. The saboteur had been captured, the core stabilized, and the Alliance stronger than ever. Yet Elias knew that in the universe, danger was always lurking, and challenges would come again. But humanity had shown what it could do: survive, adapt, and rise above any odds. And Elias Vance, a single human among many, had become a symbol of that strength. Lyra spoke again, her voice gentle yet full of conviction. "Commander, the Council wishes to honor you. But I wish to honor you as well, not for the battle, not for the victory, but for the spirit you represent. Humanity has a place here, and you have shown why." Elias felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of pride and responsibility. "Thank you, Princess. I'll continue to do what I can for your people, for Celestar Prime, and for humanity together." They returned to the palace interior, where the council awaited to formally recognize Elias. A ceremony was held, simple but meaningful. The Celestarians presented him with a crystalline pendant that glowed with the energy of the world core, a symbol of trust, courage, and alliance. As the council members offered their congratulations, Elias looked around at the gathered Celestarians. He realized that humans, though small and fragile in many ways, could leave a lasting impact. Courage, quick thinking, and the willingness to act against impossible odds had earned respect across the stars. Princess Lyra leaned closer. "Elias, the galaxy is full of challenges, but with humans by our side, we will be stronger than ever. And I hope you will continue to be part of that journey." Elias nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "I will. Humanity is ready, Princess. Wherever there is danger, wherever lives are at stake, we will rise. And we will not fail." The twin suns rose again the next morning, casting their light across the repaired city. Celestar Prime was safe, the Alliance stronger than ever, and humanity had proven its worth. Elias Vance had survived the impossible, outwitted a cunning saboteur, and stood as a symbol of courage, adaptability, and hope. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the story of a human who risked everything to protect an alien princess would inspire generations. Humanity had arrived not as a bystander, not as a weak species, but as a force capable of shaping the future. A force that could rise above any odds. And a force that would always stand for courage, intelligence, and the enduring spirit of life itself. Elias looked out across the city one last time before leaving the palace. The world was bright, alive, and full of potential. And in that light, he understood something profound. Humans had earned their place among the stars. For the first time in his life, Elias felt not just survival, but purpose. And that, he realized, was the true meaning of heroism.